Napoleon Hill on faith, the untold millionaire mindset. Faith, it is the invisible force that has built empires, healed nations, and carried the most ordinary men and women into extraordinary destinies. It is not religion alone, not blind hope, and not a vague wish whispered into the dark. Faith is the unshakable conviction that your dream already exists in the unseen, and that through your thoughts, actions, and persistence, you will bring it into the seen. Every fortune ever created began in the invisible. Before Andrew Carnegie held steel in his hands, he held it in his imagination. Before Henry Ford put America on wheels, he had to convince a world that laughed at his vision of a car for the common man. Before Thomas Edison gave light to the night, he endured 10,000 failures because he believed with absolute certainty that one attempt would finally hold the answer. That is faith, the untold millionaire mindset. Look around you. Every bridge, every skyscraper, every company that reshaped the way humans live, none of them existed until someone dared to believe in something no one else could see. Faith is the raw material of wealth, the blueprint of success, the hidden ingredient that separates those who merely survive from those who create legacies. And yet, most people live as prisoners of doubt. They wake up with fear whispering in their ears, convincing them that their dream is impossible, that the odds are too heavy, that failure is inevitable. They forget that fear and faith are both unseen forces. But while fear chains the imagination, faith unleashes it. Fear believes in loss before it happens. Faith believes in victory before it arrives. Which one do you choose? Napoleon Hill, after studying the greatest industrial giants of his time, declared that faith was the cornerstone of every empire. Carnegie, Rockefeller, Edison, Ford, Woolworth, all of them different men, different industries, different lives. But they all shared one principle. They believed before the evidence appeared. Faith was not a vague wish. It was a disciplined state of mind, a mental chemistry created through affirmation, visualization, and persistence. The mind is a fertile soil. Plant the seed of belief, and it will grow roots into reality. Plant the weeds of doubt, and they will strangle your destiny. Faith is the power that waters the seed of imagination and gives it life. Without it, dreams remain corpses, lifeless ideas buried in the cemetery of what could have been. But here is the truth too many ignore. Faith is not given. It is cultivated. It is trained like a muscle. It demands repetition, discipline, and conscious direction of thought. Just as a blacksmith pounds steel until it becomes a sword, you must pound your doubts until they become conviction. When Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve," he was not speaking in poetic riddles. He was describing a law of nature as unbreakable as gravity. Think of Abraham Lincoln, who failed in business, lost elections, faced public humiliation, and suffered personal tragedy, yet held to a vision of a united America. That vision was invisible in his darkest days, but his faith refused to let it die. Think of Walt Disney, fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity, who faced bankruptcy more than once, but still believed in a land where families could step into a living dream. He said, If you can dream it, you can do it. That is not wishful thinking. That is faith turned into an empire. Understand this. Faith is not passive. It is not sitting on your knees waiting for opportunity to knock. Faith is movement. Faith is action. Faith is rising every morning with a purpose so strong that even the storm cannot break it. Faith is doing the work before the applause, believing in the harvest before the first seed sprouts, showing up every single day as if success is inevitable, because in your mind it already is. Faith without action is nothing more than fantasy. To believe is not enough. You must move. The great men and women who reshaped history understood that faith was the fuel, but discipline was the engine. Without discipline, even the brightest flame of belief burns out. Discipline is faith made visible. It is proof that you trust the unseen by showing up in the scene. Think of Henry Ford, who faced ridicule when he spoke of mass-producing automobiles. Engineers told him it was impossible. Investors doubted him. The press mocked him. But Ford rose each morning, not to defend his idea, but to build it. Faith gave him vision. Discipline gave him progress. And persistence turned progress into revolution. Most people fail because their faith is temporary. They believe only when the winds are calm. The moment the storm arrives, their conviction collapses. They confuse faith with convenience, belief with comfort. But true faith does not wait for evidence, and true discipline does not wait for motivation. Faith says, "It is possible." Discipline says, "I will do it anyway." Together, they forge resilience, the quality every millionaire mindset demands. Napoleon Hill wrote that faith is strengthened by repetition of thought. That is why affirmations and visualization are not foolish rituals, but powerful tools. Every morning, you affirm your dream. Every night, you visualize its reality. You are programming your mind to believe before it sees. And when the mind believes with absolute certainty, the body acts in harmony with that belief. The world bends to the rhythm of your conviction. Think of Edison, who endured thousands of failed experiments while the world laughed at him. Imagine striking match after match in the darkness thousands of times without the comfort of knowing which attempt would finally succeed. That is not stubbornness. That is faith welded to persistence. He refused to call failure what others did because his faith told him that each attempt was a step closer to success. Discipline kept him working. Faith kept him believing. Persistence kept him moving until light itself bowed to his will. And so it is with every dreamer who dares to rise. The millionaire mindset is not built on luck. It is built on the willingness to stand in the fire of doubt without shrinking, to rise again after defeat without hesitation, to believe in tomorrow even when today offers no evidence. The world rewards those who act on faith when no one else can see. Andrew Carnegie, a poor Scottish immigrant, became one of the wealthiest men in history, not because he waited for opportunity, but because he believed wealth was within reach, even when his pockets were empty. He disciplined his mind to see abundance where others saw scarcity. He trained himself to act with boldness where others trembled in fear. Faith was his compass, discipline was his path, and resilience was his armor. Ask yourself now, what do you truly believe in? Not with your lips, but with your life. For faith is not measured in words, but in action. If you say you believe in your dream, yet take no step toward it, then doubt still rules you. If you claim to trust in your vision, yet surrender at the first setback, then fear still governs your destiny. The millionaire mindset demands unwavering faith, backed by relentless discipline. It demands a mind that refuses to shrink, a spirit that refuses to quit, and a heart that refuses to fear. Faith is not a feeling, it is a decision. A decision to trust the unseen with such force that even reality bends under its weight. History belongs to those who made that decision. They were not always the smartest, not always the strongest, not always the most talented, but they were the most faithful. They looked into the invisible and declared, "This will be mine. This will be real. This will exist because I refuse to stop until it does." Clarity is the language of faith. Without it, even the strongest belief dissolves into confusion. A man who believes in everything believes in nothing. The millionaire mindset is not scattered. It is laser-focused, sharp as a blade, precise as a compass that never trembles. Every titan of history began with a clear vision. Carnegie envisioned steel stretching across nations. Ford envisioned a car in every driveway. Disney envisioned a kingdom where imagination came alive. Their visions were not vague wishes. They were detailed, specific, vivid in the mind's eye, painted so boldly that the world itself seemed unfinished until their dream was built. Faith feeds on vision, to see clearly in the mind what others cannot see at all. That is the beginning of wealth. Napoleon Hill said, "Create a definite major purpose and then back it with burning desire." Purpose gives direction, desire gives energy, and faith makes both unstoppable. But here lies the tragedy. Most people drift. They have no clear aim, no definite goal, no burning fire that drives them forward. They wake up reacting to the world instead of commanding it. They scatter their energy across 1,000 trivial pursuits, never realizing that greatness demands focus. A magnifying glass gathers sunlight and ignites fire only when it is steady. So too does faith ignite reality only when it is directed at a clear vision. Think of Abraham Lincoln once more. His faith was not blind, it was aimed. He saw a nation, indivisible, free from the chains of slavery. That clarity drove him through loss after loss, through nights of despair, through enemies and betrayal. Without that clarity, his faith would have scattered into frustration. But because his vision was sharp, his faith was unbreakable, and his purpose carried him into history. You must ask yourself, what is my definite purpose? Not what the world wants for me, not what fear allows me, not what doubt whispers is realistic. What is the vision that sets my soul on fire? For faith without purpose is a ship without sails. Discipline without clarity is a soldier without orders. The millionaire mindset is not just belief and action, it is belief and action, aimed like an arrow toward a precise target. Purpose transforms work into mission. Vision transforms obstacles into stepping stones. With faith, every setback becomes a test. With purpose, every test becomes a teacher. The man of purpose does not ask if the path will be easy. He only asks if it leads to destiny. Edison's failures were countless, but his purpose was singular. Ford's critics were endless, but his vision was unshakable. Carnegie's beginnings were poor, but his desire was burning. They all held to a definite aim. That is why they rose. That is why they endured. That is why they created fortunes that still echo through history. Do not mistake movement for progress. Do not confuse busyness with purpose. A man running in circles may sweat as much as the man climbing a mountain, but one remains in the same place while the other ascends toward greatness. Faith without the guidance of vision is wasted energy. The millionaire mindset is a marriage of faith and clarity, belief fused with direction, conviction united with purpose. Picture your dream now. Picture it not as a faint cloud, but as a living reality. See the details, feel the weight, hear the sound, taste the victory. This is not imagination. It is creation in its first stage. The mind is the workshop of faith, and clarity is the architect. The world outside bends only to the blueprint drawn within, and here lies the untold secret. When faith is backed by clarity, the universe itself begins to conspire. People appear, opportunities unfold, resources align, not because the world changes, but because your vision sharpens. You see where others are blind. You move where others are paralyzed. You seize where others hesitate. Faith is the power. Vision is the direction. Purpose is the fuel. Together, they form the untold millionaire mindset that has built every empire, written every masterpiece, and forged every revolution. Obstacles? They are the crucible in which faith is tested. Every man or woman who ever achieved greatness was forged in fire. Without resistance, muscles do not grow. Without storms, ships are never proven. Without setbacks, faith is never real. It is only theory. The untold millionaire mindset does not fear obstacles. It seeks them, for obstacles are not the end of the road. They are the raw material from which destiny is carved. Napoleon Hill wrote that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Most people shrink at hardship, but the successful dig into it, searching for the hidden seed of growth, knowing that buried beneath difficulty lies the very opportunity that will elevate them. Think of Thomas Edison again. Imagine the ridicule of newspapers mocking him as a fool, the financial strain of repeated failure, the temptation to quit when his experiment seemed endless. But Edison understood something others could not, that each failure was not a wall, but a doorway. His faith did not break under rejection. It adapted, it reshaped, it learned. His persistence turned obstacles into stepping stones until, at last, the world was lit. Or look to Henry Ford. His first two companies failed, leaving him bankrupt. His critics laughed. Competitors dismissed him, and even his investors abandoned him. But Ford's faith transformed bankruptcy into wisdom, ridicule into fuel, rejection into strategy. He adapted, refined his methods, and when the time came, unleashed the assembly line that revolutionized not only industry, but the very rhythm of modern life. Without failure, Ford would have remained ordinary. It was through obstacles that his faith evolved into mastery. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the decision to rise despite it. Adaptability is not weakness. It is the strength to bend without breaking. Together, they are the armor of faith. The millionaire mindset does not cry for an easy path. It demands a worthy challenge. It does not pray for lighter burdens. It trains for stronger shoulders. Consider Abraham Lincoln, who suffered repeated defeats in politics, endured depression, and buried loved ones. A weaker man would have collapsed. But Lincoln adapted his strategy, refined his leadership, deepened his wisdom. By the time destiny placed the weight of a divided nation upon his shoulders, he had been tempered by struggle into a leader unshakable by chaos. His faith, resilient and adaptable, carried him to greatness. Understand this: obstacles are the training ground of vision. They strip away the weak. They expose the half-hearted. They reveal the pretenders. But to the faithful, obstacles are invitations, tests designed to strengthen, refine, and elevate. Without them, dreams remain shallow. With them, dreams gain roots strong enough to endure. Most people quit because they mistake delay for denial. They pray for instant results, and when the world resists, they call it failure. But the millionaire mindset sees differently. Delay is preparation. Resistance is strengthening. Setbacks are signals that you are being trained for a greater destiny. Faith whispers, "Not yet," does not mean not ever. Walt Disney was told his ideas were impractical, that a giant amusement park would fail. Banks refused him financing. For years, he faced doors slammed shut. But Disney's faith was resilient. He adapted, persisted, refined, until Disneyland was born. Today, millions walk through gates that were once dismissed as fantasy. His obstacle became his empire. So the question becomes, when hardship strikes, do you collapse or do you adapt? Do you surrender or do you rise? Do you allow faith to wither in the storm, or do you let the storm prove the depth of your faith? The millionaire mindset does not merely survive obstacles, it transforms them. Like alchemists of old, it takes failure and turns it into knowledge, takes rejection and turns it into resilience, takes pain and turns it into power. This is why those with faith appear unstoppable. It is not that they are spared from trials, but that they have learned the secret. Every obstacle is a teacher, every failure a guide, every storm a passage to greater strength. Faith without resilience is fragile. Faith without adaptability is brittle. But faith armed with both is unbreakable. This is the faith that builds empires, writes legacies, and leaves footprints deep enough for future generations to follow. Gratitude. It is the hidden current that turns faith from survival into abundance. Without gratitude, faith becomes restless, always chasing, never content. But with gratitude, faith is amplified, multiplied, magnetized. Gratitude says to the universe, "I already see the blessing, therefore more must come." Napoleon Hill discovered this truth in his years of study. He saw that the giants of wealth were not simply men of ambition. They were men of appreciation. Carnegie, though ruthless in competition, never ceased to thank the men who built alongside him. Edison, despite failures, expressed gratitude for each attempt because it revealed what did not work. Ford thanked adversity for forcing him to innovate. Gratitude is not passive. It is the acknowledgement that faith is already working, even before results arrive. Most people miss this. They wait until success comes to be grateful. They think gratitude is a reaction. But the millionaire mindset knows that gratitude is a cause. Gratitude is the signal that aligns your mind with opportunity. It clears away bitterness, envy, and fear, the very poisons that strangle faith. Gratitude is the language of abundance, and abundance always answers its call. Picture a man who begins each day not with complaint, but with thanks. He thanks for his breath, his health, his opportunity, his lessons, even his struggles. That man is rich before riches arrive, powerful before power is granted, victorious before victory is won. Why? Because gratitude reshapes the mind into a magnet, pulling more of what it acknowledges. A grateful mind cannot dwell on lack. It sees only abundance. And what the mind sees, faith, builds into reality. But gratitude alone is not enough. It must be joined with learning. Faith without growth becomes stagnant. The millionaire mindset is forever a student, forever humble enough to learn, forever hungry enough to adapt. Edison learned from every failure. Lincoln learned from every defeat. Carnegie surrounded himself with men whose knowledge exceeded his own. Faith says, I will succeed. Learning says, teach me how. Gratitude says, thank you for the lesson. Together, they create unstoppable momentum. Consider the story of Walt Disney again. Before Disneyland rose, he traveled the world, studying architecture, design, storytelling. He absorbed knowledge from every source, never assuming he had all the answers. Gratitude for each teacher, humility to keep learning, and faith in his dream combined to build an empire of imagination. Without gratitude, he would have grown bitter at rejection. Without learning, he would have repeated failure. But with both, his vision matured into reality. The millionaire mindset does not hoard knowledge, it multiplies it. It seeks wisdom in books, in mentors, in mistakes, in every corner of life. It is grateful for correction, grateful for challenge, grateful even for those who oppose it. For in opposition lies the sharp edge of growth. Faith turns knowledge into action, and gratitude ensures knowledge is never wasted. Look around in your own life. How many lessons have you dismissed because they came wrapped in struggle? How many teachers have you ignored because they wore the face of failure? Gratitude turns every hardship into a classroom. The man who learns from pain is richer than the man who runs from it. Gratitude also anchors faith in the present. For what is faith if not trust in tomorrow? And what is gratitude if not trust in today? Together they create balance. Faith says, I will arrive. Gratitude says, I am already blessed. The man who holds both is unstoppable, never desperate, never lacking, always moving, always receiving. And here lies a secret too often overlooked. People are drawn to those who radiate gratitude. Opportunity flows toward them. Relationships open for them. Mentors appear for them. Why? Because gratitude is contagious. It shines like light in a world addicted to complaint. A grateful heart attracts allies, investors, friends, and doors that closed to the ungrateful. Gratitude is silent influence. unseen power, invisible wealth. The millionaire mindset is not merely about having faith in what will come. It is about giving thanks for what is already here, while learning enough to be ready for what is next. Gratitude unlocks joy. Learning unlocks growth. Together, they prepare the soil for faith to plant greater seeds, deeper roots, richer harvests. Action. It is the proof of faith, the visible expression of an invisible conviction. You can believe, you can visualize, you can affirm. But if you do not act, your faith is a caged lion, pacing behind the bars of hesitation. The millionaire mindset knows this truth. Faith without action is dead. History remembers those who dared to move when others froze. When Edison was told it couldn't be done, he struck another match. When Ford was mocked, he built another prototype. When Disney was rejected, he sketched another design. Their faith was not words, it was motion. Faith lives not in speeches, but in steps. Every great empire was built one action at a time, each act fueled by belief in the unseen. Courage is the companion of action, for faith will always demand that you move before certainty, leap before evidence, act before applause. Courage does not mean absence of fear. It means fear is present, but faith is louder. The man of courage does not wait for the perfect moment. He makes the moment perfect by moving. Think of the Wright brothers, two bicycle mechanics with little money, no formal education, and the world laughing at the idea of man taking flight. Yet they acted. They dragged their fragile machine across wind-swept fields, crashing again and again, bruised and bloodied, but relentless. Why? Because faith told them it was possible, courage told them to rise, and action brought the dream into the skies. Their first flight lasted seconds, but it changed eternity. Most people wait. They wait for the right time, the right resources, the right mood. But waiting is the death of faith. Faith is not passive. Faith says, move now, even if I cannot see the full staircase. Every step reveals the next. Every action strengthens belief. Motion creates clarity. The millionaire mindset does not wait for certainty. It creates it through relentless action. Napoleon Hill wrote that faith is a state of mind that may be induced by autosuggestion. But here is the deeper truth. Action itself is a form of suggestion to the subconscious. Each act whispers, I believe this is possible. The more you act, the more your mind accepts belief as reality. Action strengthens faith, and faith fuels more action, until momentum itself carries you forward like a tidal wave. Look to Abraham Lincoln. His courage to sign the Emancipation Proclamation was not born in comfort, it was born in faith. He acted knowing half a nation would rage against him, but also knowing his purpose demanded it. His courage, his faith, his action reshaped history, and millions walked free because he dared to move. And here lies the secret. Action transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results because it compounds. A single choice, repeated daily, becomes destiny. One act of courage today plants the seed of fortune tomorrow. Faith without action is a locked vault. Action is the key that opens it. Ask yourself now, what are you delaying? What vision have you buried under the excuse of someday? Faith says now, Discipline says today. Action says move. For every empire you admire, every legacy you respect, every fortune you envy, they were all born from ordinary people who chose to act before they were ready. Faith makes you see it. Action makes you touch it. Courage makes you own it. This trinity, faith, action, courage, is the unstoppable force that bends reality. And the world always bends, not for those who wish, not for those who wait, but for those whose faith is loud enough, whose courage is strong enough, whose action is consistent enough to declare, I will not stop until this dream breathes. Destiny is not written in stone. It is carved by faith. The great lie of the mediocre is that fate is fixed, that circumstances decide, that luck is the master of success. But history has shown us otherwise. The children of poverty became titans of wealth. The mocked became inventors. The rejected became legends, not because destiny was given to them, but because faith allowed them to write it. Napoleon Hill discovered, after interviewing the most powerful men of his age, that faith was the single common denominator. Not education, not privilege, not luck. Faith. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller, Morgan, all different, yet all carved their destiny by believing so completely in the unseen that the world itself had no choice but to follow their vision. Faith is the pen. Vision is the paper. Discipline is the ink. Action is the stroke. With them, you write a destiny that will outlive you. Without them, life writes for you, and you are left with regret instead of legacy. Think of Walt Disney once more. His dream was not to make cartoons. It was to create a world of joy. He was laughed at, betrayed by partners, rejected by banks. But his faith became his compass, his courage his engine, his action his weapon. Today, long after his passing, millions step into worlds he imagined. His destiny became legacy because his faith was greater than his obstacles. Legacy is faith immortalized. It is faith that has multiplied beyond one lifetime. Faith so powerful that it becomes inheritance for generations. Lincoln's faith in freedom still echoes in the heartbeat of a nation. Edison's faith in light still illuminates every home. Carnegie's faith in possibility built libraries, universities, and opportunities long after his death. Their wealth was not their true fortune. Their true fortune was faith crystallized into legacy. And now the question rests not on them, but on you. What will your faith create? What will your courage birth? What will your actions carve into history? For one day, your life too will become a story. Will it be the story of a soul who feared, who doubted, who shrank from destiny? Or will it be the story of a man, a woman, who believed so fiercely that the universe itself bowed to their vision? The millionaire mindset is not about money alone. It is about mastery of the unseen. Money is only one expression of faith. Legacy is its true reward. To live with faith is to live without chains, without hesitation, without apology. It is to walk as if the path is already paved, to build as if the world is already yours, to rise as if no force on earth can hold you down. Close your eyes now and see it, the life you hunger for, the purpose you were born to fulfill, the legacy you were meant to leave. See it not as a dream, but as a certainty. Feel it in your chest. Taste it in your mouth. Walk with it in your stride. Let it burn into your spirit until doubt itself cannot survive in your presence. That is faith. That is the untold millionaire mindset. And when the doubts come, and they will, remember this truth. Fear and faith both demand belief in something unseen. Fear believes in defeat. Faith believes in victory. The choice is yours. Every moment, every day. Choose faith, and you choose destiny. The world has always belonged to the faithful. It always will. For while talent may sparkle, while luck may flash, while privilege may open doors, only faith endures. Faith is the fire that never dies, the river that never dries, the seed that never stops growing. So rise with faith in your heart, vision in your mind, purpose in your soul. Rise with the discipline to persist, the resilience to endure, the gratitude to attract, the courage to act. Rise as the architect of your own fortune, the author of your own destiny, the carrier of a legacy greater than yourself. For the untold millionaire mindset is not waiting in books, not hiding in secrets, not locked in vaults. It is already within you. It is faith. And if you dare to believe, dare to act, dare to persist, then nothing, not time, not failure, not fear, not even death itself, can stop you from leaving your mark upon the earth.